Welcome to Retro Spectrum, the podcast where we take musical journeys through our past and try not to have existential meltdowns. This week, we're talking about Neutral Milk Hotel, a band that looms large in our
Yeah, it is.
sort
It
of
is a
teen,
soundtrack
early
to an
adult
existential
years.
crisis. That's for sure. I honestly, when you recommended this, thought it was going to be a really breezy, short couple of albums, in and out sort of thing. And we went a lot more in
Ah,
depth than I anticipated. And there ended up being more music than I ever knew about.
well, sometimes when we're doing the bands that only have like 2 studio albums or whatever, you uncover all of this hidden demo tapes or whatever it is, which is so fucking cool and fun, especially the ones that I'm really interested in that you would
Yeah.
have wanted to hear more from when you were younger or whatever, and then you uncover all this stuff. I don't know. This podcast is pretty fun. But I did have a real hard time organizing my thoughts on this one. So there's a few things I forgot to mention in the episode. One of them was about the song Naomi. If you're interested in looking that up, I highly recommend. That's a good
Yeah,
story.
we
I
we
wanted to
said a
talk about
lot. We
it.
covered
Forgot
a
to
lot
do
of
so.
ground in this one. Neutral Milk Hotel is a lo-fi psych folk DIY sort of band, loosely based out of Athens, Georgia. The main central figure in the band is Jeff Mangum. He's the lead lyricist and songwriter, and he did have a traveling band that kind of supported him. All of these guys were part of the Elephant Six Collective, which was this giant music collective out of Athens, Georgia. So we'll talk a lot about Elephant Six, and really most of our conversation centers around Jeff Mangum. We talk a little bit about some of the other people in the collective, but he's kind of the figurehead for most of this.
Yeah, Neutral Milk
Yeah,
Hotel
I
was
think the other dudes
him
were just they're part
alone
of that
for a
collective
while.
and kind of
So
helped him play live and did some stuff in studio or whatever, but it all came from his brain originally. So yeah, they're very insular. I didn't find a lot of connections between them and other artists because they toured with each other and recorded on each other's albums. Well, they're all really
which is
connected
weird
to
since
each
the
other, but it was
collective
harder to connect them to the wider musical world because their mainstream career
the
was so
closed
kind
off
of
collective.
short-lived.
Yeah. So a bunch of them didn't branch out
They
and
all
go
kind of
into other
stayed in their
bands
own
like
little
P-Funk
bubble.
did. But even though they didn't do that like P-Funk did, Neutral Milk Hotel was still super influential because of it's like a secret little gym kind of that just like hit a bunch of artsy types that really
They
grabbed
are
onto
most
it.
well
And
known
I
for
was
their
one of those
two
types, I
full-length
guess.
albums on Avery Island and In the Aeroplane Over the Sea. For most of this conversation, we focus a lot on Aeroplane. That's kind of their masterpiece album that I think gave them their lasting influence. There were a lot of demo tapes that we'll touch on. They did release a little bit of stuff after Aeroplane, but those are the two major ones. So when we talk a lot about Anne Frank and stuff, most of that is actually from their second album.
Yeah, that album just fucked
Been
me
doing
up
that to
real
people for
good. So,
years.
and everybody who's ever heard it, yeah, it was a little too close to home at some points. A little depressing, but we got through it. So here it is: the Sideshow Circus Carnival dream-like stylings of Jeff
Insert
Mangum's
French
band
horn
and
playing in
Neutral
the
Milk Hotel.
background.
My eyebrows twitching.
Yeah, you're a little tense.
Yeah, it sucks because I got a massage a couple weeks ago and I thought the tenseness had passed, like I waited until after the holidays and stuff like that. Not that the tenseness ever passes fully, but I thought a peak had passed, but I was a little premature. So now I need another massage.
Have you ever had acupuncture done?
No, but it's on my list. I'm trying to get some soon.
I find that surprising that you've never gotten that done
I've just
before.
never had the opportunity.
Does it freak you out?
No.
The needles don't bother you or anything?
No, cupping freaks me out more than acupuncture
Why?
because it seems a little bit more painful to me, I guess.
Isn't that where they just put the hot air on it and it sucks your blood up into your skin or whatever?
Yeah, it's like hickeys. Your back's like covered in hickeys,
I always see
basically.
basketball players that have the big round
Really?
spots. Yeah, there's a lot of basketball
Interesting.
players that use cupping as a recovery.
Well, maybe I should try that because, I get the idea. It seems like a good idea. Maybe it would feel good actually. Who knows? Because I guess hickeys aren't painful. It just looks aggressive like the aftermath. Like it looks kind of bruisey. And anytime I'm this happens to me sometimes, I'll be like laying in bed trying to go to sleep. And if I start to think too hard about a bruise or what a bruise even is, it really upsets me. Like it really skeeves me the fuck out.
Not the pain of it, just the visual and the like
The
what it
pain
actually
is wrapped up into it as well. It's all of it.
Interesting.
Bruises just are very unpleasant to me as a concept. And if I think too hard about my body working
Yeah, that's
as I'm laying in bed
exactly
at
what I was
night.
about to ask. Is like, does just the normal functions of a body kind of gross you out too?
Yeah, and it's not necessarily gross. It's just it makes me feel inside my body I feel it too much. The brand of neurodivergence I hear electricity. If I'm laying in silence, I can hear my own body functioning and I can also feel it. And feeling it is the worst part. Because if I'm laying there and thinking about my body doing what it's doing and trying to like hone in on that and focus it, or not trying because I don't want to do this, but sometimes my brain just goes on trains that are hard to jump off of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, oh, 100%.
Especially late at night. Intrusive thoughts, I guess. Like I meditate a lot. If I'm just in a certain state, a certain, I guess, meditative state, I can kind of go there and I don't want to go there, but I can literally feel my blood moving through my veins. And when you say that to a doctor, they act like you're fucking insane. So that's fun. And that's why I'm so similar to.
Yeah, honestly, the perfect. I was like, wow, this really is going to line up perfectly with the Neutral Milk Hotel because I
I didn't
feel
plan for
like the
this.
doctor will look at you like you're insane, but Jeff Mangum will look at you and be like, yeah, I
Yes.
wrote 4 albums about exactly that
Literally.
feeling.
No, literally, like I think of all the bands we've done, this is the one that I feel like I relate to the most as far as like the energy of all the music collective, and it's like the
Uh-huh.
most similar to our youth kind of. This and Chumbawamba for me. I feel like you're leaning a little more this, and I might lean a little more Chumbawamba sometimes because like I hung out with a lot of gutter punks and more dirty. You did a little less risky behavior than me, I guess you could say.
More weirdos and less like what's the
Your weirdos are church flavored. My weirdos
yeah,
are,
these guys have a very strong reformed church kid vibe.
and that's pretty much what they are.
Yeah, but they operate outside of societal norms, but not in like a lawless way, more in like a whimsical, look at this giant paper mache thing that I made way.
Right. And I feel like there's a certain brand of artists, regardless of their upbringing, whether it was churchy or not, are going to be this certain type of neurodivergence, basically. There's a lot of levels to this that I feel like we're going to get. We're going to go some fucking weird places with this. But all I'm saying here at the top is that his brain, the way it works, is very fucking similar, it seems like, to how my brain works. So there's only 2 studio albums, technically. So normally I mostly focus on the music and then afterwards I'll like do documentaries and stuff. Well, this one we gave ourselves more time, but there's only 2 albums. So I did all the normal stuff that I do. Like I seek out interviews of them and stuff like that. I try to watch any music videos or, some live if here and there, like whatever. But mostly documentaries is kind of what I go for. And what I want to hear the most normally is like from the artists themselves, because like hearing other people talk about stuff.
Good luck.
Exactly. And so for this, not only did we give ourselves extra time, but they only have the 2 studio albums and they don't do very many interviews or anything. So I listened to a lot of people giving their fucking opinions about this.
Mhm.
And almost everyone that talked about them were like not really fully getting it on a way that I feel like I get it. Not to say that I'm like decoding something special of this, but I just relate so heavily to the way his brain seems to work. And I went ahead and reread Anne Frank's diary for this. But after I listened to the album and then I read her diary and then I listened to the album again, and it's like, it's very much about that.
Yeah.
But a lot of people like to argue that it's not about that, which is weird because he said it's about that. So it's very obvious to me. But anyway, I just see more connections than a lot of the critics that talked about it were seeing for some reason.
So I think that explains a lot of this band's enduring impact on people is that you could have 100 different people listen to their body of work and even do all the same research and read all the same interviews and all that, and you would have 100 different people come out with 100 different connections that they made to it, where somebody latched onto this aspect of it, or somebody thought this line was the one that really stood out, or like these themes were the ones that were most important, because it's written vaguely. The songs aren't linear in a I am telling you a story. This happened first, this happened second, this happened third. All of the lyrics and even the sounds, like everything about this band is more about evoking emotion to me than it is about telling a specific story or like having anything that actually even linearly makes sense. It's just about communicating a feeling or an idea in combination of music and words together. A lot of the stuff he talked about was a lot of the songs are based on his dreams or dreams that he had. And a lot of the music has that quality of trying to, you know, when you wake up and you have a dream and you have the feeling of the dream like you were there and it was real, and then you can't explain the feeling or what even happened in the dream to somebody else. That's what this music is to me. Like, that's the feeling that this music conveys, is like there is something there. There is something that happened. There is some like truth, or there is a piece of information being conveyed, but it's so hard to communicate what that is that it gets interpreted differently by so many people. And I think them basically disappearing and not doing interviews and not over analyzing and over explaining it themselves
Adds another
allows
layer
people,
of,
yeah,
yeah.
it allows everybody to project their own interpretation and your own neuroses and your own insecurities and all that on top of it.
And it's mysterious and
It's so,
intriguing and
yeah, and like whatever you say about it is like, yeah, it is that. But whatever somebody else says about it, it's like, yeah, it's that too. And
right,
whatever somebody else
totally.
says, it's like, but it's also that. And it may not be all of those things to all those people, but it is, I don't, it has the capability of connecting with a lot of different ways of looking at things, a lot of different ways of being, a lot of different ways of thinking, but while like also having its own meaning. It's not that it's not saying anything and it allows people to project what it is saying. Like, I do think there are themes and messages in there. It just, it's so dense and there's so much that it gives people different entry points and different things to latch onto. Because I think you could just listen to this band on a surface level and be like, I like the way it sounds, and that be the end of it.
I think that's the majority of the fans, just based on like what I was seeing and listening to as far as like reviews and whatever. But I think you're totally right. Like, the one thing that every single person takes from it is the emotion, regardless of whether you think the lyrics make sense or not. Not to say that they don't make sense, because I get way more content out of it. And it's weird because we've talked a bunch about poetry and how like I'm not a huge poetry guy, but I guess I kind of am sometimes. It just a certain brand of poetry, I guess. But like so many bands that we've done, I say it's poetry, like Patti Smith, fucking even Saves the Day. Like, I thought about Saves the Day a lot during this because they kind of have similar imagery and stuff going on. It's kind of grotesque. It's kind of a little bit violent and fucked up, although the Holocaust is extremely fucked up, obviously. But then we're introducing a mind to the Holocaust in a way that he had never been introduced to it before for the first time, and in like this explosion of this type of way that he is already with his version of how he does poetry, you know, and then introduce the Holocaust to that. It's just everybody gets, at least all the critics, even if they're not getting the lyrical content, are getting the emotion behind it. And I think that's why a lot of people hate Neutral Milk Hotel, apparently. I wasn't aware of that until I did research for this. But a lot of the shit talkers say that they like a bunch of the other Elephant Six bands better. And I listened to a bunch of those bands. And to me, the reason that Neutral Milk Hotel stands out is because of that specific brand of pure, raw ass emotion.
Yeah, I didn't get as much into the other bands. I've listened to a lot of them in passing.
They were good or whatever, but it's like just a little bit more surface level. Specifically, Jeff's mind and the fact that he was the one, like he did on Avery Island, that was like basically a solo record, as far as he played all the instruments and wrote it, you know?
Yeah.
And then this second album, he like brought in people to play instruments and add elements to it. And apparently, this was way more like Parliament Funkadelic than I expected too.
Same. Yes. Yeah.
They said like 50 people probably helped with this other album. Like, people would just pop in and out. Their whole Elephant Six vibe was very white, ex-Christian men mostly. And that was totally the basis of and a lot of it is Southern based too. So that was totally the basis of our music scene. And it was funny because in the beginning of the Elephant Six documentary, like one of the first lines somebody's saying is, there wasn't any other scene like it ever. And I was like, no, that's like every single music scene I've ever
Not
fucking
for
been a part
him.
of.
He was only in that
Exactly.
one, so there wasn't another one for him. All right, let's, because I think there's going to be a wide ranging amount of topics.
Oh
And
my God. I don't even know how to approach this.
to me, the story of Neutral Milk Hotel is the story of Elephant Six, is the story of those four dudes from Louisiana.
It's just like fucking P-Funk.
Yeah, very much. And I think P Funk is George Clinton is the center of P Funk. For me, Elephant Six is Jeff and Robert Schneider.
Yes. So in this episode, we're going on down to Athens, GA, which is where Fred Schneider is also from. And they kind of have a similar vibe. So I was wondering as I was watching that documentary if they're related, because wouldn't that be sick as fuck?
I don't think they are.
There was not enough mention in this whole ass research of the B-52s. I'm just saying.
There never is. So there's these four dudes. They all started out in Ruston, Louisiana, which I thought was really interesting. That I think they get connected with Athens, Georgia, and even Denver. But the four that are kind of the nexus of it all started from Louisiana.
And there's a lot of New York involved as well.
But they weren't from New York. That
Right.
like comes in later. They all went to high school together in Ruston, Louisiana. Three of them, Bill Doss, Will Cullen Hart, and Jeff Mangum, ended up in Athens, Georgia. And then Robert Schneider ended up in Denver. He's like a mathematician. Did I send you the link of him?
I watched his fucking TED Talk, so
Yeah,
like,
his TED Talk where
I don't think you sent me anything, but I watched a bunch of shit about him because he's cool as fuck.
Robert Schneider, the one that moved to Denver, he went to like get a math degree or something. He's like a mathematician. He went out to Denver to go to college. He started the band Apples in Stereo, which is really funny because Neutral Milk Hotel started as just the band Milk.
Which was basically just Jeff.
And then there was another band that already had Milk. Since they had like dispersed all around the country, they would record cassette tapes and basically mail each other like song snippets or ideas of songs or just like stuff that they recorded on their own. And they used the little 4-track that recorded directly to cassette tape. And they would do like sound collages. The earliest stuff I could find was recorded in like 90 and 91. And it's very rough. And you can tell it's not meant for public consumption because like he talks in between every song and like tells a little bit about what it's about and gives like an intro, and you can tell it's just a guy sitting in a room with a guitar, and then I'll play the song, and then it'll be some weird like radio dial noise coming in and out and stuff. It was really interesting, really rough, but you could tell it was just dudes that grew up playing music together wanting to share the stuff that they were still playing. But Robert Schneider goes out to Denver. He starts the Apples in Stereo, which also started as just the Apples. So I thought it was really funny that they had these bands that were like the Apples, Milk, like these very basic things as bands, and they ended up being the Apples and Stereos because I think the Apples were already taken, Milk was already taken, but that they have a really strong connection to 60s psychedelic music.
And also like the Beach Boys.
So yeah, the Beach Boys, the Beatles, even like the Turtles, where it's just like these like and then like random thing bands.
And I think all those other Elephant Six bands sound way more like that shit than
Yeah.
Neutral Milk Hotel does. It is singular.
I agree. The Apples in Stereo are very Beatles influenced. They're 90s pop, like alt pop. Very, very, very Beatles influenced. I love the Apples in Stereos. I have for a long time. I love Neutral Milk Hotel also.
Again, I like the other Elephant Six bands too. Although that one you sent me with the cassette, it was like old demos or something.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of had some jangly, kind of more normal sounding stuff on it. Jeff's voice was less aggressive, and there was like a couple songs where it was a little more Beach Boys energy.
Yeah, there are 3 that I had to find on YouTube. So they grew up playing music together, and Jeff joined the band with Bill and Will, Olivia Trimmer Control, which did you listen to them?
Yeah.
They're like a psychedelic pop kind of jam band. I think Bill and Will are the most like out there musicians of the whole thing. I think they're the most experimental.
Will is a goddamn prodigy.
Yeah.
He's like next level. Watching the Elephant Six documentary, it was like, that's, that like all our different friends.
It's like I've been in these houses where the documentary is just all these messy rooms with like
No,
tapes piled up
literally.
and cables hanging from the walls and like toy instruments and like 3-string guitars. And
I'm telling you, like the whole nebulous situation going on with all these bands looks the most like our past to me of all the ones
I
we've
agree.
done.
This is the one that I felt like out of everything was like, this one I really feel a strong connection to.
And that gave it another layer of upsetting stuff to work through for me
Yes,
personally.
same.
Yeah.
So they started this collective called Elephant Six, where they started releasing all of the Apples in Stereo and all the Olivia Tremor control stuff. And it just became this giant group. I think eventually they said like 25 people from Ruston moved to Athens, Georgia to be part of the collective. They recorded on each other's albums. They had all the members are all like mixed together where people would just play instruments on each other's releases. And it kind of became, I wasn't aware of how big Elephant Six kind of was in the 90s, especially in the like underground indie scene. It was not a thing that I was aware of. That, you know, this is pre-internet days and I lived in small town Oklahoma, so none of this stuff was really on my radar at all as it was happening. And I'd heard about it. Like I knew that Neutral Milk Hotel was part of this collective, but I didn't know how influential it was and how far the tendrils went and like how many different bands and artists were on them. Of Montreal is one of the bigger ones that came out of there too.
I feel like that may have been literally the only one I had heard of before this.
Really?
I don't even think I knew about the Elephant Six thing. Like, I feel like I'd seen that logo before, but I don't think I'd ever thought anything about what it was. Neutral Milk Hotel was the one band that I knew of all those bands. Like, even of Montreal, I didn't listen to or anything. You know what I mean? Like, I knew the band name, I knew they existed, but that's it.
Neutral Milk Hotel is kind of the one that broke free the most. I think they signed to Merge.
They're the most unique because I mean, a lot of the shit that was coming out at the time, like the Vines and like Beck, you know, a lot of similar sounding stuff to a bunch of the other bands was also happening. Not exactly the same, but similar. And Neutral Milk Hotel just has this very specific stank on it that makes it so fucking unique. Not to mention the concept album situation about the whole thing. Like that just automatically kind of brings you up to another level. Some people are going to say it's gimmicky or whatever, but when it's so like heartfelt, it's not fucking gimmicky. Even if it is gimmicky, I mean, the fucking Sufjan thing, that is like one of the greatest albums of all time.
I love a concept album.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not gonna knock that at all. I generally really enjoy a concept album, even if it's just a one-off. I like songs that thematically tie together, or even if it's not telling like a story. You know, it's like this is the idea of this album. That really appeals to me a lot, and that's more how I feel about Aeroplane than it is like a specific beginning, middle, end sort of story. It's like all of the ideas of these songs are all tied together, or there's like a general concept to the album thematically versus like a movie story.
I agree, but I thought it was less linear originally, but then after rereading, because I haven't reread The Diary of Anne Frank since I fucking read it in junior high or whatever, it really did something to me because I kind of see similarities between me and Anne too. She was pretty, what we'll call precocious in a way. Like she said the truth, full thing, and people didn't like that. And I relate to that. And I feel like he related to that when he read it too. But anyway, I didn't think it was as linear and followed a story as much as I think it does now because after rereading Anne Frank again as an adult, and then immediately listening to the album again, I was like, yeah, all these things that I thought about it before, I'm seeing even more connections now. It's very specifically connected to the way that the people interact and stuff. Every single goddamn person that talks about this album talks about the lyrics and like says what they think they mean in a very fucking confident way, like it's the truth or something. And obviously this shit's like very artistic. It's like poetry. It's kind of cryptic. It's kind of mixed in with dreams imagery. It's kind of mixed in with a little bit of psychedelic use. Like there's a lot happening here. It's an artistic interpretation of this shit. But like people get real specific, like, oh, mom stick a fork into daddy's shoulder and dad would dream of all the different ways to die. Your dad's suicidal. There was like a journalist that went and like tracked his dad down and hounded him a bunch of questions about this shit, like your son thought you were suicidal, blah blah blah. And in the Diary of Anne Frank, there's these two families hiding in the secret annex and the parents were arguing here and there, and there was a lot in the diary about that. Anne was like talking about how she perceived the other couple or whatever. And so to me, a lot of it, most of it sort of seems like he's kind of putting himself in the place of the boy that was there, like
Mhm.
kind of relating to that. Sometimes it kind of seems like he's relating to Anne. Sometimes it seems like he's talking about how she saw the other people there. I mean, it seems so clear to me that he's talking about exactly that shit, but in an artistic way with interesting wording, and then throwing some personal stuff and throwing some dream stuff in there is how I interpreted it, the whole thing lyrically.
Yeah, and that's the same song that mentions the dad being adulterous and stuff too. So it's also it makes sense in the context of having nothing to do with Anne Frank and just being about a family who was experiencing some tumultuous stuff where the marriage of the parents is falling apart. And imagine being the kid watching your parents fighting with each other. And
True, exactly. Well, and that's the thing about this sort of thing, like the Diary of Anne Frank is about these very specific people, but it's universal concepts.
that's what I mean is like,
Fucking art, man.
you could say, yes, it is exactly about that situation and take like the literal interpretation of it. You could also let the idea of it be assigned to other situations.
Right. And if you're the type of person who has like a super nebulous brain like me, and like I assume Jeff also has, you read this all day, every day. My whole entire life is based on I read this today, I listened to this today, I did this today, and then they all blend together and it equals something that relates to all the different things, even though the things are seemingly unrelated. That's just how my brain works every day. Like I'm constantly making connections between like the most seemingly unrelated shit. And I feel like that's how a lot of artists work. Probably you take in something, it's going to influence you, but you also have all your whole past life of experiences that are already inside of you hanging out. And so then when anytime you introduce any new art, it just kind of gets blended up in there, and this masterpiece comes out sometimes.
That's well, hopefully, if best
Right.
case scenario. That's a lot of what I took where he's talking about. Are we going to get into Aero? Do you want to just get into Aeroplane or do you want
I
to?
mean, I don't fucking even know how the hell to talk about this band. Like, I did not like. I don't. I wanted to say at the beginning, like coming into this, like this is gonna be fucking weird. I don't know what I'm gonna say. I don't know when I'm gonna cry or how much I'm gonna cry. You know what I mean? Like
Two.
I
I
don't.
set the over under it too.
I just don't understand how even to talk about this band because there's just so many levels of weirdness to everything, and also there's only 2 albums. So the whole thing is and then I have all this personal shit mixed up. Right. There's only 2 studio albums that the people say that there are, but then we listen to all the additional shit. But it's a very nebulous situation, kind of like how we were going into the P-Funk episode. I was coming into it with a lot of whatever baggage, I guess. Like, and same with this because this was like a really important album to me, and I don't even know how I found out about it. I don't recall a ton of people talking about this band.
On Avery Island was one of the first records I ever bought. So I actually was more familiar with On Avery Island than in the Airplane initially. Like it came out in 1995. This was 10 years later. I knew the name and I had been exposed to their songs and listened to their songs and stuff just in the world. I don't know that I ever owned any CD or anything, but at the record store, just flipping through, I was like, okay, I'll go ahead and pick this one up because I didn't really know which one was like the album
Hmm.
sort of thing. So I got On Avery Island and it's a weird record, man. It has some of the most like musically interesting songs on it that are like really catchy and I think anybody could like first off, but it also has a lot of like weird noise stuff. The last song on the album is just kind of like drony noise discordant stuff. It's recorded on a tape machine and everything is like
This
maxed
is
out.
hilarious because it didn't even register as weird to me.
Well, but it's not like it's a guy in an acoustic guitar,
This
but
one seems more normal to me than the other one.
all the inputs are turned up way too high, so everything distorts and is like clipping. And there's a lot of really interesting videos on how they got the sound that they got, but it's a lot of it is due to the inputs being up too loud, it being like dubbed to tape specifically on the 4-track machine, and the sound that comes from the tape. A lot of the vocals are distorted. It's not just clean guy playing guitar and singing. They do a lot of like experimental recording techniques in a way that's much more than just like putting a microphone in a room and capturing the sound. Like they manipulate the sound in a way to make it sound unique. Like the only way it could sound that way is through the recording process.
And they also specifically wanted it to sound like you're in the room too.
Yeah.
So like kind of shitty.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like it's clear and recorded well. Like it's not like they didn't know what they were doing type of recording, but the stuff that they were doing was to make it sound not pristine, like to make it sound kind of gritty and gnarly.
Which is interesting because I feel like we've talked about this sort of thing a bunch of like clean recordings and like
Mhm.
what is music, and like the scrappy rawness sometimes makes it better. When shit's overproduced, you take all that out of it and it kind of kills the life of whatever it is, you know?
They're not playing really intricate melodies. But I think one of the most impressive things about this band is taking a simple chord structure, like most songs between 4 to 6 chords. Not the only person to put G, C, D, and E minor together, but the way he does that makes the songs like special, which I think is really impressive.
There are certain people that can only do shit their way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like everything you do has a certain you flavored something about it.
I also love a vocalist that sounds like they're singing at the very edge of their ability all the time.
Totally. He's fucking going for it, pushing that shit to the limit.
I'd rather you like try something and it not sound great.
Me too.
And that make it to the recording than have everything like pristine and perfect and smooth. I don't know. There's just something about it that, like I said, you could listen to just the sonic elements of this band and I think still find that emotional connection, even if you're not looking at the lyrics.
And like I said, I think that's what most people do.
But I can see why that happens.
I think the majority of people have no idea what most of the lyrics are.
So that's like their first major release. And when you suggested this, I was like, dude, they only have 2 albums. I've listened to both these albums many, many, many times. Like it'll take 10 minutes to listen to everything and we can pop right in.
It did kind of feel like a cheat because I've listened to those 2 albums so many times, but I just had never dug into anything about the band.
Like I own both of them, so I was going to listen to them on vinyl and you know what I mean? Just make like a night of it sort of thing. So I started listening to On Avery Island and just started doing my little cursory research. And I was like, oh, there's some tapes. Like there's some things that exist before On Avery Island. I was like, okay, so I'll go and look those up. Turns out there's 4 that you can find pretty easy. They're like pretty easily accessible. There are a couple of other ones that like there aren't known physical copies. Like it's just the dudes in the collective own the copies of it because they sent them to each other sort of thing. But I did end up going back and listening to 4 tapes, which I think 3 of them are mostly just demos, like him recording in his bedroom sort of thing. There's one called Hype City Soundtrack from 1993. It was put out by a label in Seattle on cassette, and it is a little more polished and produced.
That was the one I was talking about that had a couple like jangly sort of Beach Boys Beatley ones.
The Hype City Soundtrack.
It was the yellow cassette.
Yeah. It's got the most album structure wise, but it also has like there's spoken word parts on it, there's noise parts. It's this really weird collage of sound.
The noise parts were very irritating.
All the songs bleed into each other, which they do on all the albums, and I love that. I love how one track just goes into the next track, just goes into the next one.
Because you like think of an album as a whole piece.
Yes. Yeah. And these very much are albums. Even in the older stuff that happens where they bleed into each other. But there are versions of songs from Avery Island and from Aeroplane, I think, that end up on those previous 4 releases too. So he like reused verses, or he would use the same song structure but change some lyrics or like tweak some things.
And he would reuse concepts and characters because a lot of his shit, and this like reminds me of a lot of our friends, is like made up mythical whatever characters that he kind of has a storyline happening in his head, you know?
Which helped me contextualize In the Aeroplane Over the Sea a little bit better. Like having that as how he writes his songs and like what his songwriting style is helped me make sense of Aeroplane a little bit better, because I think there's a version where you can just say this is Jeff singing about how Jeff feels about Jeff's life sort of thing, but knowing that he does it more in an abstract or with characters.
Well, it's fucking art. And he talks about how like the pre-song or whatever, like his friend gave birth, and so he intertwines his I read an interview where he was talking about how he spent most of his life in the dream world. He's sort of like an out-of-body experience kind of guy. He says every morning when he wakes up, he's startled.
There's a halo hanging on the corner of his 4-post bed.
Who's that?
Sugar Ray.
Oh my God, you're the worst. You're the fucking worst.
Every morning there's a halo.
If we hadn't already done them for Wheel of Death, they could have gone for this episode after that bullshit. But anyway, back to the fucking important thing I was talking about.
Every morning when he wakes up,
he's startled that he's in a body. So like he feels more comfortable in the astral plane, basically. And so it makes so much fucking sense to me that and I am a person, he sleepwalks a lot. He has a really colorful dream world. And I am also that type of person. My whole life, I slept walk and talked and did all kinds of fucked up shit. And that's why I drug myself now, because to make that stop. Because for me, I don't know about for Jeff, but for me, a lot of it was nightmares because I have a lot of like PTSD and stuff. So like the majority of it was nightmares, and that is very hard you never feel rested. And I don't know if this guy ever feels rested. I would love to have a conversation with him because I feel like we would have so much to talk about like related to this sort of shit. But anyway, in my mind, he's got his people that in his waking life that he interacts with, you know, real human beings, whatever. And then he has this whole other astral presence that is like Jeff number 1, we'll call it, he kind of low-key puts the most importance on Jeff number 1, and then maybe real life is, like, number 2, you know what I mean? And then there's this other layer of all the artistic elements about it, like his made up characters and his little made up world or whatever that is probably not all made up. It's probably a lot of intermeshing of the dream shit into the reality. So there's like all these different layers that he's like kind of swimming in and out of and like mixing all together all the time. And to me, the way my nebulous ass artistic weirdo brain works, it's exactly like that. So that is just why I assume, obviously, that that's how he functions as well. Also based on so many things that I read about all the interviews I could find of him, basically.
And I think it's interesting that you say that he's that way in his life, because I think that's how his songs are too. Is there was this real world experience that he had that then got filtered through the songwriting structure that also gets tied in with this snippet that came from a dream thing. Like, he talked about how he writes songs over long periods of time and will just like, well, I have this little piece and then I have this little piece over here, and then I can kind of mash these two together. And I mean, he did say some of them just kind of came out of him in
All
one
at once,
fell
kind of
swoop sort of
complete,
thing. But
yeah.
a lot of them were like lines that he had here mixed with an experience that he had here, mixed with a dream that he had here. And so it is kind of that like layers of real things mixed with these ethereal things, mixed with these conceptual things, mixed with these just made up character things that makes it depends on what you want. It's difficult to parse if you want a straight story. It makes it really interesting to look at if you want to use it just to explain a concept or an idea.
Is there a such thing as a straight story? You know what I mean? And I feel like this whole fucking thing is time is not linear. I mean, if anybody wants to understand any of this, just go fucking do psychedelics.
Well, he talked about he did a bunch of drugs in high school, but he had stopped by the time Aeroplane came out. Like,
You can do a certain
no, I know, but it wasn't that he didn't write the songs while he was on
but
psychedelics.
when you do psychedelics one time, if it's the right amount, you're gonna understand all this shit on a way fucking different level. Because when you're on psychedelics, you realize that we are all one. Time is not linear. The astral plane's like a pop in and out sort of situation. There's a lot going on that everything's connected. You know what I mean? So like knowing that everything's connected makes it easier to understand all the ways that he connects all the different experiences that he has.
And I think the music for him is a tool, or was a tool, to do that for that period of time.
I think he's still doing it, just alone.
Well, but yeah, the recording, public persona.
I don't think ever cared about that really, which I also relate to. And honestly, a lot of people are adverse to it. It seemed like they kind of just started to kind of make badass music and have fun. I feel like the one with the most vision of making something out of it was Robert, because he would like go wake Jeff up every morning and be like, we're gonna
Yeah,
make
like
the
the
greatest
drive
album
to
in the
make it
world
happen.
today or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, exactly. Like if we didn't have this personality, and I mean Jeff, all these guys say all this, it's like the convergence of all these different specific people that made any of this even happen.
Well, because the magical thinking without the guy to wake up in the morning and say, let's do it, let's put it on tape,
Literally.
let's do the work,
Yeah.
then it just ends up being a bunch of people who may be doing a cool thing, but nobody else will ever be able to experience it.
I would love to have my own Robert.
So
Yeah.
yeah, without that guy getting the like, let's get it done, let's do it, it kind of all falls apart.
I can be the Robert for someone else, but I need a Robert for myself.
So on Avery Island, they toured behind it, but it wasn't like a huge thing. I don't think it had the cultural impact that Aeroplane ended up having. And it was 3 years between albums, which I thought was kind of quite a stretch.
I don't know if I even knew they toured with that album because he did the whole thing by himself.
Yeah, they toured between 95 and 98. The two that they're remembered for is on Avery Island and In the Airplane Over the Sea. Those are the two that are widely accessible. Like, if you think about this band, those are their two albums. Even though all that other stuff exists, it's all precursory, kind of basically demos.
I liked the Beautiful one or whatever.
Oh, there's one just called Beauty
That one.
from 92. I think that is the first like official release of theirs. There was one called Invent Yourself a Shortcake before that.
I liked it.
But that one really is just straight up a demo. Like, it does not sound
Recording
like
them hanging out basically.
Yes.
There was like a part with a prank call that was really funny.
Yeah, In the Aeroplane Over the Sea, which is what we've been talking about, I think, the most. And honestly, I think the album that the band is remembered for the most, that's the one with all the Anne Frank imagery tied to it. It was, I guess, written and recorded pretty closely after he read the Diary of Anne Frank for the first time, and just said that he like broke down and it really affected him. And so that, I think, bled into his songwriting.
Yeah, he said he like cried for 3 days and
And I think you can hear that in the songs, not him crying, obviously, but like,
yeah, because he's a fucking empathetic human being. He really felt when he fucking read that shit the same way that I do. I mean, it's obviously a masterpiece. I mean, everybody fucking knows, but it's like he said that before he felt kind of like he didn't know shit about history. He was just like a dum dum that lived most of his life in the dream world. And he said he, stumbled upon it, read it, and it's sort of like what radicalized you, you know?
yeah,
It's sort of
definitely.
like the first existential fucking meltdown. And I doubt that it was his first because just the type of guy he is. But you have a bunch of mini existential meltdowns all the time. I mean, I do. you know, like every fucking day, every time I use anything, it's like, God damn it, this is ruining the fucking planet or whatever, you know what I mean? Like I think about the overarching effects of literally every single goddamn thing I do. Like lighting this lighter. This is fucking plastic and bullshit and fuel. You know what I mean? Like every single fucking thing I do all day, every day, basically. It's a torturous existence. But I kind of feel like he's kind of a similar, lots of mini existential meltdowns maybe happen. But this Anne Frank one was like a really fucking big one where you really connect to like someone totally different from you on the other side of the world, has a vagina. You're in your mid 20s. Do you know how old he was when he
Yeah, mid 20s, I think 25 to 28. I think he was born in 70. So,
So a lot of people talk about how creepy a lot of the lyrical content is because it could be considered pedophilic, which I do understand that.
I do too, and I was really worried about that going into this because I didn't want this to be like one of those things where you look too closely and it kind of like ruins the whole thing
Right.
for me because I think there's so much I don't know. I really like this album a lot and I didn't want it to be like a thing where I can't listen to this anymore because it ends up
I will
being
say that did sort of happen to me because one of the members of this band did fucking groom a like 15-year-old and assault basically. I don't know how old they were when they were assaulted, but they ended up having a multi-year relationship with a person, like a 7-year fucking relationship, but that doesn't mean you can't be assaulted by your partner. You know what I mean? So like
sure, yeah.
at least one of the people in this band could actually be considered a pedophile because they were like in their late 20s when they first started talking about this like fucking 15-year-old. And that's creepy and fucked up, obviously. Not to say it's an excuse or anything, but when I watched these people, his voice is really childlike. He's really soft spoken. The way he acts is very fucking childlike. I do like relate on a level to like the easy access to your innocence and childhood energy. But then there's also this added level of, but you have lived more life.
Yeah.
You should have gleaned a little something by then.
And when you use your position as somebody as like a key member of this collective and a member of this influential band and stuff, and when you use that to take advantage of somebody who's looking up to you, like that's especially someone who's underage, that's really troubling
Right.
and not good.
Right. And it made me think, is this a band full of pedophiles? So then I went back to the lyrical content. And then after reading Anne Frank's diary and stuff, to me, Jeff seems way more of the innocent variety when it comes to this stuff. I know his imagery is very semen and pistons and sex stuff, but in fucking Anne Frank's diary, she talks about that shit, which by the way, she's queer. Which I didn't even remember. Like the when I read it when I was a kid,
It may
I'm
have been
certain
edited.
they edited that shit out. 1,000%. They edited that shit out when I was a kid. So I didn't know she was a fucking queer. So even another level to relate to her on. I just feel like he was sort of putting himself in back in the day type of position. Like I said before, I kind of felt like he was putting himself in Peter's place, the boy that was in there with Anne, in which the boy that was in there with Anne was older than Anne as well. She mentions in her diary entries that, that could be a little weird, but it didn't feel weird to her. But of course, when you're younger, it often doesn't feel weird to you when you're the younger person. There's just so many levels to all of this. But in my mind, Jeff specifically with his lyrical content, like it's not as creepy as a lot of people want it to be.
Yeah, I ended up feeling the same way. And this was one area that I was like, I got to come to terms with this if we're going to talk about it. Like, I need to figure out what his intention was. I need to figure out how I feel about that to be able to kind of decide. And to me, a lot of the theme of the album is the like part of what he found so upsetting about Anne Frank, and apart from the Holocaust and all the normal atrocities there, is how young she was when she died, and all of the things that she missed out on experiencing of having like a normal full life. And so some of the stuff is his what if she continued to live and continued to still get to exist and experience the things that she deserved to get to experience but were taken away from her at such a young age, rather than a reverse projection of I want to do these things to Anne Frank. You know what I mean? Where it could be
Yeah.
read that way. I do think there is an interpretation of it that way. That's just not. It's more about the like the loss of opportunity and the life that didn't get to be lived, you know, and how he was wishing that she would have gotten to have a full experience life that has all these normal experiences that we all take for granted and get to go through that she didn't get to.
And she talked about in her diary about how she wanted to experience
Yeah.
those things. Like she talked about sex and stuff. She talked about all this stuff.
And I think that again, this is like I think some of that album is written with characters and like thematic more as like storytelling rather than this is me and this is how I feel. It's hard to say because at the same time it is him and it is how he feels.
But like I said before, I feel like it's all mixed together. And I feel like because of the way that he is sort of existing on an astral level differently than most people, I feel like those types of people have easier access to the timeline of when they were young too. Because
Yeah.
I can like, okay, we've talked about this before when we talked about I don't know if it got cut out of an episode or if it was left in at any point.
I would
but
never
I
cut anything important out of an episode.
I'm pretty sure this wasn't important, but I do remember us at one point having a conversation about not that anything we say is important.
That's yes, hear that for sure.
But like at one point, and people who love Neutral Milk Hotel think that what they have to say about it is really important, is what I was gleaning from watching a lot of people talk about it.
The type of people that are in that collective think that what they have to say is really important too. They're like,
Yeah.
look at this,
And
look at
arguably
these
some of
pipe
it is.
cleaners that I tied together. It's like, okay, I don't know that all of this holds some mystical meaning, but cool.
Okay, so anyway, what I was saying is at one point we mentioned, or we were having a conversation where I was talking about watching teen, like YA type
Yeah.
TV, and you were saying like it basically it makes you uncomfortable to watch shit like that, like Euphoria and shit like that, which valid because it is male gazy and like showing characters that are supposed to be underages like bodies in a sexual way and stuff like that. I totally get that, but I'm pretty sure I said something along the lines at the time, because this is how I also still feel, is I personally have very easy access to the way I felt when I was young. So like I can so easily divorce myself from like my old person thing for a second. Not fully, because I always had this 80-year-old man inside me even when I was that age. I just sorry. Your face. So I don't know. I just have really easy access to that person that existed then. And I think time is a spiral anyway. And especially when it comes to like putting yourself in similar situations with media that you watched back then. Or, I mean, I don't know what he was getting up to. But like even doing this, when we were researching it and I'm reading the fucking Diary of Anne Frank, that puts me back to when I read it the first time. Or watching these documentaries about this fucking Elephant Six shit, that puts me back to when we were like in our early 20s, in my like late teens. I feel like I have such easy access to these different little timelines that I've lived.
Yeah. You could see yourself writing a song from the perspective of the previous
Yes.
version of you. Yeah.
Yes.
I
And
get
it
that.
not being creepy. And like, so to me specifically, because I am just like everybody else in the world and think I have some special insight on Jeff Mangum's brain, but
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I feel a specific connection with this specific dude, just like George Clinton. Jeff and George, similar aliens. You know what I'm
Put
saying?
those dudes in a room together.
I would die to have a conversation with the two of them at the same time.
Yeah.
Who knows what that would fucking be like. Anyway, I just don't think it's as creepy as it sounds sometimes. And to me, a lot of it, I'm seeing him seeing himself as a young person.
Yeah.
I'm seeing him seeing Anne as an old person. I'm seeing him seeing himself as Peter. You know what I mean? Like there's so many different ways you could interpret it and spin it.
Or not even seeing himself, but writing from what that person would be saying at that time.
Right. And I thought this the whole time about this album, that a lot of it was from Peter's perspective. And I have never heard anybody else fucking say that. And then this morning I was listening to some fucking podcast about it. And it's the only podcast I've ever heard say that. One random guy said, you know, I think it might be a lot from Peter's perspective. And I was like, thank you. Like, I've literally never heard any other person interpret it like that. And I was like, I can't be the only one who, but probably most people aren't rereading the book and then re-listening to the album. Who fucking knows? Anyway, it's very interesting.
One of the songs, did you listen to My Dream Girl Don't Exist?
Yeah.
There's a couple of lines in there about how the perfect girl for him exists out there somewhere, but she's 5 and killed herself. She just didn't know.
Yeah, it's like at 5 years old, she slit her wrist.
Yeah, but it's like it's a lost innocence, it's a missed opportunity, it's the potential for perfection taken away because of the actions of humans. Like we have not just for him, but like for ourselves, we have destroyed the opportunity that we have to have a beautiful thing because we can't stop doing terrible things to each other.
In the planet and just yeah.
And like
Exactly.
that's the story of Anne Frank, is that like in a literal sense is that story.
And
Her
this
potential.
other song he wrote before that, yeah?
Yes, and that's what I was gonna say. It was written before that. So this idea of
He already had that shit rolling
yes,
around.
of like there was this person who was taken from me before I got to meet them. And it's the idea of like I'll never be able to experience what I am supposed to be able to experience because it doesn't exist anymore.
It's like a parasocial fantasy, kind of.
Yeah. I don't know. So like having those lyrics that existed previously before that also helped kind of contextualize it. Like this is a theme that he had explored before of a historical figure or someone that he's never met being like it's not necessarily about Anne Frank per se, but it's the idea of what you are meant for, you can't achieve or you can't experience. It doesn't actually exist. You can't get to the place you are supposed to get to because that thing doesn't exist anymore because of some actions outside of your control.
Except for potentially in the dream world.
Or in a reincarnation sort of aspect, or in an afterlife.
On the astral plane, baby. Yeah, because he talks about reincarnation in it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of tarot card imagery in that whole album.
Yeah, there's a lot of ghost stuff.
Yeah, like there's a lot of levels to this that you have to have dabbled in a lot of different areas to even understand at all, because you wouldn't pick up on the tarot card stuff if you didn't know about tarot, you know what I mean? So it's like just a very specific brand of weird and a very specific brand of all the different things that this guy indulged in around that time, culminating into this goddamn masterpiece of an album.
And like there is stuff that's in there. It's like, I wish you wouldn't have said those words next to each other, sort of thing, you know, like there
I don't even care. I'm fucking belting I Love You, Jesus Christ, and Semen Stains the Mountaintops all day.
But see, that's the whole this isn't a Christian song. He's not singing about like the actual person. He's singing about the idea of this like perfect, pristine being. And when he says love, what context does that even mean? Like, what do you mean by when you say, I love you, Jesus Christ? Is that the same thing you mean when you say, man, I love hamburgers? Or like when you confess your love to another person, like a romantic love, is it the same? That's one word, but it has all these different meanings. And then you think about Jesus Christ and all the imagery and connotations that come along with that. And just it evokes that idea of a perfect being and that idea of just within one line, you know, like within one idea.
And just the way he fucking sings it too. And everybody's like, what's this weird Jesus Christ stuff? And he's like, it's not literal. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, which is okay. Slayer uses that defense for their lyrics also, though it's not literal. Get over it.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, sure, it's not literal. It is figurative. It is imagery and that sort of thing. But let's examine the imagery. Let's examine what the figurative language is implying or pointing us towards, or putting what ideas is it putting in our head. And with Slayer, I still think that the ideas that it's putting in your head are graphic and violent and arguably
Negative,
unhealthy.
yeah.
Whereas with this, it's more, I don't know, this band evokes like a nostalgia for something that never existed, or like homesick for a place you've never been, or some sort of like ineffable feeling or location or person that you want for yourself, but you'll never be able to get there or go there or meet them or experience.
It's like a fucking ghost circus funeral dirge in New Orleans as a band or as an album. Like it's so very specific. And as I love the circusy elements so much too. And a lot of it was inspired by Musée Mécanique in San Francisco. So it's got like just weird like penny arcade shit in there, you know?
Mhm.
It's hella fun, but just weird vintage circusy vibes is like a lot of what he's drawn to.
And I think there's a lot of like music from the 30s and, you know, like that really early recorded
It
music
just has a whole Eastern European energy about
and
it.
weird
And that is
instruments. And
very interesting to tie into the Anne Frank thing too. Like it's so good. And it makes perfect sense that like he was already like knocking these ideas around in his head, fucking with weird instruments and doing all this weird, very specific, but like you wouldn't necessarily clock as that thing or relating to a certain thing. And then he's got that fucking, he reads the book and that influence comes in and it just like culminates so many bands. Like, okay, so many of the Elephant Six bands, so many bands that we were in, so many bands of our friends. There's so many bands that have good songs and could easily be a whatever. But then there's these certain perfect, every weird nebulous thing comes together and just some magical thing happens to create this one very specific thing that's never existed before and kind of never will again.
yeah.
And that shit is so rare. And it's on the level of, and I know this sounds annoying to say because everyone in the whole goddamn world loves Nirvana, but Kurt Cobain is a singular entity of something special. There's something going on there. And to me, Kurt and Jeff are one and the same. Kurt, Jeff, George Clinton, these guys are a very special something, you know?
Because you think about grunge being the death of like hair metal and stuff. And like
I
after
mean, I
Nirvana
don't,
came out,
but
like, well, but like after Nirvana came out and blew up, they didn't do hair metal anymore. Like everybody decided that's not cool anymore. And then all the 90s was all that like grunge, really kind of heavy. All the alternative stuff was like Seattle dudes with long hair and flannel. And then I mean, this was when in the documentary it kind of brought it up, and I know they're probably pretty biased towards the Elephant Six guys. But then this music started coming out, and it started to bring like pop music back into the sensibilities of alternative music and writing not in a sense of everything needs to be heavy or everything needs to be grungy or whatever, and kind of was like it's okay to be joyful and experience like good things, and I thought that was really interesting.
well, and after Kurt like fucking offed himself, I'm sure that there was some motivation to be like, okay, are we all gonna kill ourselves or are we gonna try to find some
Right.
circus vibes happening? Like, and depressed people are fucking totally drawn to all that type of shit too. So, and he's a very depressed guy. You know, he has that's the end of the band is he had a little mentally breakdown. So
Yeah, I think they toured for this. I think they just started to blow up. He turned down an opening slot for REM. REM asked him to go on tour and open for him, and he
although
said
Athens
no.
GA.
And like slowly started doing less and less shows, and then eventually just like stopped playing shows, stopped like the band. You know, all the other members went back to their original projects because all the other members had their own bands and own side projects and stuff. And Neutral Milk Hotel just quit being a thing. The last song of his that is written and recorded that was written after Aeroplane, the only song of his that's written after Aeroplane is the song Little Birds.
The song about Matthew Shepard.
Yeah, which is about Matthew Shepard. So that also ties into you blow up, you're touring all the time, everybody's interpreting your lyrics in whatever way they want to interpret it. And I imagine for him as the artist was difficult to see people going in different directions with it and maybe being misinterpreted and stuff.
Well, and just people fucking asking you dumb questions all the time. Like he actually says that he totally likes when people interpret it however the fuck they want. And but he kind of doesn't just is sick of people asking him questions about it, I feel like.
Well, and then the last song that he wrote is about Matthew Shepard. And so you can kind of see where that is where his headspace is a little bit, you know, writes a song about Matthew Shepard and then just stops touring, isn't a band anymore, doesn't record or release any new music ever since.
Sometimes I feel that he is an extremely empathetic person based on all of this shit. And when you are that, it's extremely fucking difficult to exist in this fucked up world when you're so sensitive and empathetic. I mean, I can barely function a lot of the time. You know what I mean? It's very fucking hard to live and be aware of all the fucked up shit that's going on, all the needless murder of innocent individuals. And I feel like a lot of the Elephant Six people, there's a lot of queer happening in that group on all the levels.
They're all definitely vulnerable or like outsider people who are not built for mainstream society.
And they're literally like queer and stuff too. So it's like they're neurodivergent. In the Elephant Six documentary, there was somebody said at one point, like, what the fuck else would we do? None of us can have jobs. What are you talking about? And that's pretty much how I feel about myself.
And I imagine you build this little enclave for yourself and your little weirdo friends, and you exist within that, and everybody's feeding each other and taking care of each other and making sure everybody had a place to live. And then you make this thing and you go out into the real world and the real music industry, and you go on tour and you kind of get to see not what it's like inside. And not that their bubble was perfect or the perfect thing or whatever, but you get to
It
go.
never is. It was mostly white men. What do you?
Yeah,
You know,
but you get to
obviously.
you get outside of that and get to see how the rest of the world operates and stuff. And I could definitely see like being, this is not it. I'd rather be in my artist collective or rather be with my people than have to try to deal with all of the things that go with being in a successful band.
Well, and yeah, that was a big part of the fucking Anne Frank shit too. Is like that was a rude awakening, number one. And then he has this album, and then he just keeps getting hit with information randomly.
And like, that this was his crew from high school up until this album was released. And so he didn't have not, I don't know. I don't know his experience, but it makes sense to me to, oh, this is what it's actually like when you get to this point. I had this big idea of I was going to be in a band and everything was going to be perfect. And then when that kind of starts happening, being like, oh, wait, this is not what I wanted. This is not what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, you got all these assholes coming at you all the time.
Yeah, and then just saying, you know what, I'm out and walking away. Which the last song on Aeroplane Over the Sea is basically saying like, appreciate the love when you have it, and then when it's over, don't hold it against the other person because they had to leave. And then the last recorded thing is him setting down the guitar and getting up and walking away, which is like what happened with him, what he did. It's the perfect end to their recorded output, to the band as a whole. Like,
did you notice that was actually from that fucking yellow demo tape?
which part?
The sound of him putting the guitar down and walking out.
Oh,
It was from that.
That's cool.
Because a lot of people act like, oh, that's what happened in the studio that day. No, it was like off an old tape. The studio experience, I feel like for this band specifically, it probably looks way different than what one might imagine.
For me, it sounds what I have experienced.
What we would imagine.
Yeah. Of like sloppy, sleeping on the floor.
Exactly. No,
Whatever.
The shit that they were describing in this fucking documentary was just very much like a lot of the people I know. And a lot of them that I didn't even like. Like a lot of the characters in the documentary, I was like, that's like that guy I didn't like. And I noticed a distinct lack of vaginas. There's like 5, if that, women involved in the whole shebang. But I did like that they were in the bands and stuff. It wasn't just like girlfriends hanging
Apple's
out.
drummer's a girl.
Yeah, like this punk rock Hillary chick was cool.
But it was cool because like nobody knew how to play their instruments. They're like, I want a drum. It's like, do you know how to play drums? No, but I'll figure it out. And then figured it out. So no new music after Aeroplane Over the Sea. One reunion tour in 2014 and 15 where they kind of got back together and played a string of shows together. They released a box set in 2011 that had, it says it's like all of their recorded works. It's basically their 2 albums and then 15 tracks that aren't on those 2 albums. It doesn't have everything from all the cassette tapes, but like, to be honest, a lot of that stuff doesn't need to be widely circulated.
Also, all of their recorded works, like interviews that I read, were in like his house and stuff. And there's just like boxes and boxes and boxes of tapes. They're all always making fucking tapes constantly.
Oh, yeah. The stuff that they recorded that nobody will ever get to hear has to number in the thousands.
When somebody fucking dies, you think somebody's going to dig through that shit and put it all on the internet, probably?
It's one of those things. It's like if they don't want it to be heard by other people, should it be heard by other people? I'm sure it's a lot of half snippets and verses.
Well, that's how I felt about fucking Kurt's Diary, dude.
Yeah.
I was so fucking pissed when they put that out. And it's funny because we're talking about Anne Frank's fucking diary. Hers made sense to put out. She would have wanted that. But Kurt, I don't think wanted that. I was obsessed with Kurt Cobain when I was like, I don't know, 12 or 14 or something. And I refused to read it because I was like, this is so fucked up.
The violation kind of.
Yeah, totally. Like, even though I would have loved to know his inner thoughts or whatever, I fucking wouldn't do it. Still haven't. Anyway, I feel like Jeff is like Kurt 2.0, and I could totally see him going the route of Kurt if he would have stayed in the public eye. And he has said that his little Minty B was really good for him because it set him on another path. And I totally fucking relate to that because most of my mental breakdowns have been good for me. You got to get to that point sometimes to
Time to do something different.
Exactly, exactly. And when he left the public eye, he said there's just certain things you can't sing your way out of. And I was like, I so fucking feel that, dude.
That was the part that there was a quote that kind of gave me the context for after he left, where he said, I thought I wanted to do this, and I thought like if we got big enough, it would kind of solve all of our problems. Like I thought singing or the music industry would solve all of my problems. And then we got there and I was still in pain, all my friends were still in pain, and it didn't. It just made things worse. And that
Yeah.
there are some things that you can't just sing your way out of, and you have to face these things and deal with them. And it was like, okay, you don't need to say anymore. Like he doesn't do interviews. He's told
Exactly.
people to leave him alone. Like clearly, I do not want to be interviewed. Leave me alone, sort of
I'm
thing.
trying to deal with the fucking reality of
Yeah.
life,
Yes, of
which is
just
a lot to
existence,
handle. Yeah.
which I think he tried to process through the
And
album.
that's why it's so fucking beautiful, because it's so goddamn authentic as fuck. As odd as it is to say about that, like the imagery and the, shit that is so dreamlike and stuff, but it truly is.
Yeah, it's not a pristine process or idea, and not every idea is fully formulated or thought out. And like, there's probably stuff on there that's, I don't know, not the version of yourself you would want represented, but he still put it to tape and put it out there.
Yeah, so in this Pitchfork interview, which is like, he doesn't
The only one.
there's only a few, yeah. He asks questions and he answers it and talks, like, after his answer, a lot of the time he'll say, like, is that weird or is that embarrassing? Or he said it took him a long time for people to talk him into showing this music to the world because he was afraid that people would think it was too fucked up and weird. And I think it's fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
And I think, the people that get it would agree. I mean, okay, so this is I feel like a good time to talk about Amanda Palmer. Like, I don't know when I was introduced to the Neutral Milk Hotel album, but I know that I knew it by the time that I started interacting with Amanda Palmer. So, I was in a kind of a bad way at a certain point in my early 20s. And I mean, you were there. So Amanda is very into Neutral Milk Hotel, which makes fucking perfect sense because of the way her art is. And she's got a similar thing going on with a nebulous artistic brain.
Yeah, her band, the Dresden Dolls, also a World War II reference. I mean, there's some crossover and interest.
And she's like hella circusy type. She's a busker. Like same. We did Living Statue. She I feel like she and I have a lot of similarities. She went back to her high school and basically turned this album into a play about Anne Frank, a musical about Anne Frank. And it's fucking incredible. We will link that somewhere because when it came out, I think it was 2008, which was a really bad year. And I paid to watch it online and I was just like fucking sobbing. It was so fucked up. But I rewatched it for the first time since then. So like doing this whole research, I got brought back to elementary school reading Anne Frank. I got brought back to a sometimes semi-happy time of like being in bands and having all of our musician friends and like doing psychedelics and stuff, and then also brought back to this like really depressing later college years time for me that like was really bad in a lot of ways, but also really like eye-opening in a lot of ways for like my insides. Like I definitely was having a mental breakdown when I first watched this play. It's a really, really beautiful play, and it's high schoolers putting it on. They do such a fucking fantastic job, and it's on Vimeo. It's incredible. I couldn't believe it was still on there. Like I went to go look for it because I paid to watch it the first time. Like I bought a ticket. I didn't know that it would be on the internet anywhere, but she's got it on her fucking Vimeo. And it's sick as fuck, so highly recommend if you give a shit about Anne Frank. I mean, I will say that, specifically right now, it's a pretty goddamn heavy and painfully fucking relevant topic as the United States has been taken over by Nazis. So like there's like a whole other levels of shit going on. So you might not want to watch it right now. I don't know. But I'm the type of person who like one of the reasons I wanted to do this is because I knew it would be relevant and lead me into relevant research paths. You know what I mean? Because like as bad things are happening, it helps me personally to research the past when similar bad things happened, and it helps me try to come to terms with it and figure out what we can do about it, and also realize that things are cyclical and like, it happened before, it's going to happen again, the way of life. Life's hard. A lot of bad things happen. We got to constantly, artists and nice people, people with empathy, have to constantly fight to, keep this train moving in the right fucking direction, unfortunately, because there are so many ignorant fucks out there somehow still. Not enough people are reading Anne Frank's diary. You know what I mean? Like, not enough people are engaging with this type of media and engaging with media in a way that they should be. A more, what am I trying to say?
Well, like something that inspires like an empathetic response or a way that like emotionally connects you to what happened.
Well, yeah. When I engage engage with media or anything, when I engage with thoughts, when I have an argument with my fucking dad, I go and research every single angle about what happened that I can think of. I'll watch a movie and I'll be researching, like, some character will have a throwaway line about, I don't know, Nelson Mandela or something, and then I'm reading for hours about Nelson Mandela because I'm like, why did they put that joke right there? In, like, what are they trying to say here, or whatever it is, depending on what it is. It's like every little thing I watch, I pick apart and like try really hard to figure out, why was the lighting like this? Why was the color like this? I don't know. I'm screening for a film festival again.
An analytical eye.
Yes, I have to do a lot of this in general. And I feel like a lot of people that talk about this band specifically, a lot of people look at this and just stay on the surface level of like, that's weird, sounds weird, his voice is bad, whatever, which I don't even think his voice is
yes
bad.
to all of those.
Yeah, I don't even think his voice is bad though. I think his voice is pretty goddamn impressive. Most people can't sing like that.
It is unique. It sounds like him. He doesn't just sound like anybody.
Yes, but then there was a lot of imitators after that. Like the guy from the Decemberists sounds like
Dude,
like
so
exactly
much, which
like
I
that.
didn't realize. I was listening to it and I was like, oh my God, this is the Decemberists to a T.
Well, and apparently there's a lot of bands that basically tried to emulate. This is something that I found in research, people saying that like Bright Eyes was trying to emulate Decemberists, like a lot of people, or not a lot of people, two people mentioned two bands that I really hate, the Lumineers and what's that? Hey ho, those fucks, Mumford and Sons. I fucking hate Mumford and Sons. People were like, Mumford and Sons wouldn't exist without Neutral Milk Hotel, and I'm like, ew, why?
You know what, the best two, and two of my favorite bands, but the best two comparisons to me are the Mountain Goats and AJJ.
Yes.
Both of those bands, I think, are influenced by, not that they're mimicking necessarily, but like Mountain Goats, all of his early stuff is on cassette. He recorded it on cassette. It's all tapes, all very lo-fi stuff, very similar to the early Neutral Milk stuff.
And he does concepts, like storylines that I feel like are connected to his real life, but vaguely, and it's like shit mixed in.
And the AJJ, a lot of the like folk punk acoustic guitar playing and singing kind of at the edge of your limits and talking about topics that are unsavory and like examining human existence in a way that makes you kind of uncomfortable. I think they have a lot of thematic similarities too. And the vocals for both of them are high pitched nasally.
I also thought of Stop Wearing Purple.
Gogol Bordello.
I also thought of him during this. Gogol Bordello.
Yeah. The thing I was pleasantly surprised to find, the cassettes was like, it was cool that there was stuff that they had recorded before, but they released a box set in 2011 with those 15 extra tracks. The biggest chunk of it, they had that Little Birds song as like a single, but the biggest chunk was the Ferris Wheel on Fire EP, which was, I think, 6 or 8 tracks, and like 5 of them were not released or were released on those cassettes, but like re-recorded in a much more listenable way. But that to me was like, oh, here's basically a new album of theirs, of stuff that I had never heard before. And so that was a fun little addition to their body of work that I didn't know about or anticipate. I really thought it was just going to be the two. The cassettes were cool, but not like, I'm not going to go back and listen to them probably. This one would be something that's worth revisiting.
Well, and then on top of just the two plus these others, then there's like the George Clinton element of the whole thing where you could listen to all these other bands that he's also in,
Yeah, for sure.
because of the whole collective situation happening.
Yeah, I think going down the Elephant Six rabbit hole would be really fun. Just anything released under their umbrella.
I tried to lightly touch on a lot of it. Like I would listen to like a couple songs of each one, kind of a thing. Okay, the chick who plays the fucking electronic little horn thingy. It's hella fun, right? That little horn thing makes a bunch of those songs. Like if those songs were lacking that weird little horn thing that girl randomly just walked in and started fucking playing or whatever, those songs would not have hit as hard,
Yeah, or they wouldn't have stood out as much. Like that's part of the charm of it. And it's done in a way that's surprisingly enjoyable or like pleasant versus being forced in. I do think there are thousands of avenues to take when talking about this band. I think there's a lot of really big themes and ideas that are brought up or examined over the course of their music. I really strongly recommend this artist. They are able to communicate something that's hard to put into words.
Honestly, a lot of it feels fucking channeled too. Not only is it dream based, but it genuinely sometimes feels like fucking Anne Frank is speaking through him in a way or something like that. You know what I mean? Or some kind of spirit as a like a god type situation. You know what I mean? The universe is speaking through him is how a lot of it feels. And I feel like that can account for some of the nonsensical quote unquote lyrics because it's channeled. Because like for instance, the white flowers situation, he writes, "The only girl I ever loved, she was born with roses in her eyes." In my mind, I always imagined rose-colored glasses because one of the most important things about Anne Frank's, or like the most quoted parts of Anne Frank's diary, is that like she believes, even through all this bullshit, she still believes people are good, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so she was born with roses in her eyes. That's how I always connected that. But then he specifically says white roses in her eyes. And there's this resistance back then called the white roses. And Jeff claims he did not know about that. And neither did I. So that is another thing to me that points towards like this was partially channeled, because like when you're thinking of rose colored glasses, you're thinking pink, not white. You know what I mean? But he specifically said white without knowing. Are you picking up what I'm putting down? And if we wanted to get really weird, there's fucking freaks on the internet that have all these conspiracy theories, because he talks about in the lyrics about like wanting to go back in time and save her. And there are people who claim that they think he did go back in time and save her. And they like went into his fucking yearbook and got pictures of people who like looked like Anne Frank, that like one of them has the last name Mangum. And like,
Yeah, it's his little sister.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just like, and they think that like he went back and saved Anne Frank and just pretended it was his sister or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of that shit originated on 4chan, so I'm not I'm not interested in breathing any sort of life or.
But the channeling thing that I'm talking about, I'm serious about that. Like the White Roses thing, the coincidence of that.
Yeah.
Like, how's that even possible? Other than it being some sort of universal interference. You know what I'm saying? If one believed in that sort of thing, this is the type of band that would make you believe it. For me, it just confirms all my goofy ass whatever. He talks about reincarnation. You know what I'm saying? Like, pretty much all the shit that I think
See,
about.
I like the White Roses thing, not just a resistance thing, but also leads back into that idea of innocence and
purity. Yeah,
and
totally.
and taken before their time.
Yeah, so it could totally just be a fucking coincidence, but
that's what I mean. Like someone who's not as mystical thinking.
But the fact that it connects so specifically to a resistance is very interesting, because it could have been any flower, it could have been any color.
Really makes you think.
It really does.
I mean that sarcastically, but I also do mean that. It really does make you think. It does. I don't know. I think there's a lot of depth. I think it's definitely worth diving into. I think it would take an afternoon to listen to both albums. I think Avery Island has a lot of meat on the bone also. I do think there's a lot of stuff in there. I think it gets overshadowed by Aeroplane. I think Aeroplane is a better album.
Well, and it took stuff from the first one, so.
To me, it's interesting seeing the progression, like the stuff that got taken from Avery Island that made it over to Aeroplane Over the Sea. But like that album is kind of the pinnacle of, I think, what they were going for sound wise and content wise. But I think both albums are worth listening to. And the new stuff too. I'd recommend finding the Ferris Wheel on Fire. It's on streaming now. It wasn't on streaming until a couple of years ago. Those albums are worth listening to as
and
well.
The Matthew Shepard song. I mean, shit. All the shit that I listened to, I thought was worth listening to, except for the annoying sounds on a couple of the tapes.
Yeah, those I think you can skip. Those are just fun as little sonic experiments. I don't know that you'd want to put them on a playlist at a party or anything.
If you're like super obsessed with like going back and hearing sort of almost, it seems like a private, super personal, and almost
it's like reading somebody else's mail.
Feels private. Yeah, totally. And it also kind of evokes, if you're super into Daniel Johnston.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Daniel Johnston vibes going on here. Decemberists, if you like the way that voice sounds, you'll love this.
The originator.
Or you might kind of hate it. I don't know. Because it is a little different. The Decemberists is way more like mainstream sounding, produced, I guess.
Yeah, way more polished. Well, cool. Do you think we've summarized? I know we haven't said everything there is to say.
Sure.
Do you think we've gotten everything
there's no way to. I mean, I didn't cry.
Yeah,
so
pretty good. I think we had a pretty level-headed conversation.
This one was heavy in a way.
It was a lot heavier than I anticipated it being.
Well, and not in the way that I anticipated either.
I did take a break during listening halfway through Aeroplane because I was doing so much reading about Anne Frank and listening to it and just got really overwhelmed. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna stop here for the night.
It's a lot.
I kind of got a little overwhelmed in the Elephant Six documentary too, just because it was so
familiar.
like I said, it was like, yeah, it was familiar. It was kind of a homesick
And
feeling of
also sort
like,
of like a feeling of like missed opportunity in a way.
yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
At one point, the guy was like, "Yeah, I just quit my job and jumped in the van and we went on tour or whatever." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's the time to do that when you're that
Yeah,
young." And like, we did that stuff too.
yeah,
It's just kind of weird feeling like, yeah, we did that stuff and we've done so much stuff, but at the same time, you always kind of feel like you could have done more.
and should have, like should have
Yeah,
taken a bigger
totally.
risk, and
And
yeah,
what is that? It's just like a sort of a drive to, is it like to leave a mark of some kind or accumulate all the experiences you can because you appreciate life or just all of it?
yeah, maybe it's also easier to recover when you're young too, financially and
Oh,
physically,
for
and
sure. All the floors we fucking slept on and shit.
yeah,
Yeah, no, I would never be able to fucking sleep on a floor like that now.
you have a higher tolerance for discomfort.
And like a lot of it, I didn't even realize how much discomfort I was experiencing
Yeah,
a lot of the time. Like until you're older and you realize, oh, I've been in like fight or flight my entire life. Like I'm actually never been comfortable. And then when you finally feel comfortable a couple of times, you're like, wait, I like this. I don't want to do
yeah,
that
yeah.
other
You
thing
don't want to do as
anymore.
much to mess with it. Yeah,
But then you lose just a little bit of like some of the magic that is life. And I guess that's what sort of saying goodbye to youth is in a way. A lot of this made me feel like old. This came with a lot of mixed feelings for sure. It's like there's this appreciation that I mean, that it's yet to be seen, but I've yet to go the route of Anne Frank. And, at least at that age, at any rate, I've got to live way more of my life than her. And
yeah,
things are bad, things are good. Her whole deal was like, as long as nature exists and you can look at it, things really aren't that bad, right? The thing is we're trying to fucking kill nature. Like white men with too much money and too much power are constantly trying to murder everything that makes life worth fucking living because I guess they don't have easy access. I don't fucking know what they're on about, but it's really scary out there. And this maybe wasn't the best band to do in such a scary time, but I mean, it's not like I'm not doing all this reflection anyway, so I guess it's
it's like kind of a soundtrack for a scary time.
for sure, for sure. Send help.
Help is on the way.
From
Yeah,
where?
a resounding shrug. All right. Well, we're gonna look forward to the future, to the next couple of weeks. How you feel about that? Do you want to do Wheel of Death first?
Yeah.
All right, who you got?
Oh man, I don't even want to say this. I don't know if I can say this or not. Like mentioned 3 bands that I don't like in this episode that I think that I don't like. You never can tell, I guess. And I'm sorry, but I cannot bring myself to put Mumford and Sons anywhere near something that we have to do. So I'm just going to say it. Let's do Lumineers because out of the 3 that I mentioned, the Lumineers of Montreal and Mumford and Sons, those were the 3 that I was like, okay, those are the 3 options. Don't want to listen to any of them. Of Montreal has like 20 something albums and Mumford and Sons has one more album than the Lumineers and I think I hate them more. So
All right, stomp, clap, suspenders.
what? I don't understand what
Hey,
genre that is. Exactly.
stomp, clap.
Don't hey ho at me any fucking more.
Ho,
I do not
hey,
no comprende on that whole fucking vibe. So and it's weird because it
ho.
supposedly has like been inspired or came from like shit that I actually like. So I don't know what those people are on about, but I guess we might find out. I hope not.
Can't wait.
Your face said it all.
Yeah, that's pretty uninspiring
I
stuff.
know.
Okay, well, we are going to go in a wildly different direction with our actual artist for next week. It'll be, I guess, that goes back further than I thought. We're gonna run from '93 up until their most recent album, I guess 2006. So turn of the century artist. I'm interested in seeing some parallels with some of their more political content with what's happening today. The artist we're doing next week is a 2-piece hip hop group out of Atlanta. We're gonna listen to Outkast.
Okay. I did not know where you were going with that at all. Fuck yeah. Okay. Fuck yeah. I like Outkast.
Doesn't that sound fun?
Yeah. That Dracula song's really good.
I've been having Bombs Over Baghdad stuck in my head for the
Nice,
last
nice.
couple of
Yeah, they're
months.
good. That'll be
And
fun.
so
That'll be interesting.
I haven't listened to them since high school, and I have a much wider musical experience now.
For
And so I'm
sure.
curious to see
Yeah, because
how
I kind of
their sound
like,
fits
I'm not
in.
going to say wrote them off completely, but like at first I wasn't excited about them. because
Mhm.
specifically because the songs of theirs that got popular just irritated the fuck out of me. Like the 2 songs, they just were so overplayed.
Yeah. Hey ya.
Hey Ya, that was the fucking one that I was just like, can
Yeah.
we fucking stop with the Hey Ya? It's a good song though.
Well, and I'm curious to see because I think that they diverged at some point. Like I think their kind of artistic directions kind of diverged at some point, and so I think it'll be interesting
I don't
to
know
see.
fucking anything about it really. So
And I also like I know that they're an example of the Atlanta
yeah.
rap
Mhm, mhm.
sound, and I kind of want to compare that to what maybe I'm more familiar with or see what
I love it.
I think there's gonna be a lot to dig into
And
there.
that's sort of towards the Athens area. This is
Yeah,
weird
yeah. I
because
guess
it's from a
that'll be
similar
we're staying
location
in
and it's also
Georgia.
a similar time period, but it's going to be
Yeah,
a
but a way
completely
different
fucking
output.
different. But then you never fucking know because we do George Clinton and that's a totally different type of music, a totally different era, but it's so goddamn similar as far as the way their brains work. You know, there's just so many similarities between so many different types of people. Everything's the same.
We're all connected.
We're all
man.
connected, man.
We're all gonna be reincarnated until we find the perfect existence.
Is that how that works? I don't think that's
I don't know. Works however you want it to work.
I hope this is my last life because I'm sick of this shit.
Thanks for listening to Retro Spectrum. Be sure and leave us a 5-star review and follow along with us on all social media platforms at Retro Spectrum Pod. If you like what we do, subscribe to our Patreon at Retro Spectrum Pod for bonus episodes, playlists, and access to our Discord. Hope you enjoyed the show. See you next time.